Alliance IT. Today's topic is, what is your voice and collaboration solution? Our presenters today, I am Gary Lutz, President Senior Partner of IT Resource, and I have with me Chuck Walker, Partner and CFO of Alliance IT. Welcome, Chuck.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for everyone joining us today on this webinar series where we'll focus on cloud-based voice and collaboration solutions and how to select the right one for your business. But just a few logistical pieces before we get started. At the end of the presentation, all attendees will be offered a survey. For those who complete the survey, you'll be entered in a drawing to win a $50 Amazon gift card. We really do appreciate the feedback, and will allow us to continue to bring relevant content to you in upcoming webinars. So please provide feedback to us and tell us what webinars and information you would like to hear about. First, a little bit about IT Resource and Alliance IT. So who are we? Well, IT Resource was founded in 2000 by Gary Lutz, myself, and Leo Rui. Alliance IT, Chuck, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, we were founded in 2007 by myself and Kevin Baylor, my partner, and we joined up with IT Resources several years back to make the collaboration we have today.
Wonderful. And together we have locations in both the Midwest and Florida. You guys are on the west coast of Florida there in Sarasota, and you cover that area. And of course, we're up in Michigan and cover the Midwest up here. Again, our goals are to work side by side with our customers and help them reach their strategic business goals. We do this by providing the most comprehensive and cost-effective IT solutions. And we also want to do this with outstanding service. So let's jump into the webinar. So today's topics. So we're going to go over some voice and collaboration systems. We're going to talk about the differences between voice and basically this is going to be cloud-based solutions as well. But voice and collaboration, how they differ, where they kind of came from, and which ones are right for your business. We're going to take a look and spotlight Ring Authority, which is a cloud-based hosted PBX voice and SIP solution provided by Alliance IT, and Chuck's going to speak on that. He's definitely an expert at that. We're also going to spotlight the Cisco Webex family, and again, you know, we're not here just to talk about specific products, but this really does help you understand a voice solution, a collaboration, how they compare, how they differ, and what would be right for you. So we're going to look at Cisco Webex, which is a collaboration and voice solution. We're going to compare the common costs and pricing between voice and collaboration, so to give you an idea of how they're priced, how do they cost. And we're also going to do a bonus. We're going to help. I know a lot of folks use Microsoft Teams as their collaboration solution, and we're going to talk about how you can add real PBX voice features to the Microsoft Teams application. We're going to wrap that up with some Q&A. I will say too, at any point in time, you can throw some questions in the Q&A section, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. So jumping in. Voice versus collaboration solution. Okay, let's talk a little bit about voice and what people think of when they hear, okay, I have a voice solution in the cloud. Typically what we talk about or think of is the desk and conference room phones. Okay, so you have a traditional desk phone, you have a traditional conference room phone. You may think of having, you know, internally extension dialing. So, you know, my extension is 3002 and somebody else's is 3003, and that's how you communicate internally. You may also look at it as, you know, having receptionists or a call center, or you have customer service answering your calls and then directing them and transferring them to the folks in your business. So again, when you think of a voice solution, you're thinking of voice in that respect. You know, faxing may be included, you know, voicemail, call center services. This can either be an on-premise or a cloud-based phone system, but when you look at this, this is what you kind of think of as voice, okay? And then we come into collaboration, and typically what folks are looking for in collaboration is they're looking at sharing documents and information. You know, you kind of think of more of instant messaging and chat as a collaboration tool and not as a voice tool. And you think of video conferencing and video chat as a collaboration, and web conferencing. you would think of this solution right here that we're doing using WebEx meetings and WebEx events in this case, but you would think of this as a web conferencing solution, not necessarily a voice solution. You typically wouldn't place calls using your web conferencing. These are usually cloud-based solutions. Most of the collaboration, when you talk about WebEx Teams or Microsoft Teams or things of that nature, you think of cloud-based running those. Well, now we have the blending of voice and collaboration. So you have voice solution providers that are adding in collaboration, and you have collaboration providers adding in voice. So how the voice vendors are doing this is typically they will start with having a very solid PBX solution in the cloud, and your call routing is just fantastic and solid. So they'll end up adding in mobile devices, so where you can take your phone number with you basically on a cell phone or on a tablet. And they do this by adding apps to your mobile devices or to your desktop. And therefore, your computer, your device becomes a phone. And that's how they're adding that in. They may also add in video calling or web conferencing features. Jive was purchased earlier, I think last year or a year before, they were purchased by GoToMeeting. So they brought in their voice solution, they brought in kind of like the video conferencing with GoToMeetings and converging those together. Other voice solution providers out there, they'll add third-party integrations with the collaboration vendors. So that's one way that they're going into the collaboration. Now, on the other end, we have collaboration vendors, Microsoft Teams, Cisco Webex Teams, things of that nature, that are now adding in the PBX features to add to voice. So we have a big blend of the voice solutions and the collaboration solutions. So you may have, Microsoft Teams, for example, now offering PBX and calling outbound, where before you would look at it as being mostly an internal and team-to-team type of solution. With the third-party integration, the collaboration can add voice using SIP and everything else that we'll get into later in the presentation. So that's kind of how they're doing it. But I'll tell you, the top collaboration solutions that they bring in voice and the top voice that brings in collaboration, they really do have their game in one or the other. So collaboration does it very, very well and may or may not do voice well. And voice, they may do it very, very well, but struggle with the collaboration. So there is a point to where you really do want to know which end that you're going to go to. So right now, we're going to look at a few of them, but I'm just going to highlight some of them that are out there. And we've already talked about these, but cloud-based voice and collaboration providers, we're talking about things like Ring Authority and Cisco Webex Calling and Jive and even Cisco, their traditional on-premise solutions they have, big voice players. In the collaboration side, Microsoft Teams has really ramped up in the last couple of years. It's become a very, very nice collaboration solution. And so we're going to actually talk about that, as well as the WebEx Teams and WebEx Meetings that have also done a really nice job with collaboration. But first, I want you to see everything that is possible out there, because at the end of the day, your business needs to, I guess, really look to see what is important to you and what of these elements do you need in your voice or collaboration, or do you need them all? And we'll talk about how to achieve that. But all in all, this ends up becoming a unified communication solution, and that's where the unified communication solutions are going. I want to do a real quick market trajectory. This is where things are going in UC. So when you think about where people are putting their money in voice solutions, believe it or not, in 2018, over 80% of the unified communications were actually deployed on-premise. Okay, so it's like, wow, people are still buying phone systems and still buying internal on-premise systems, but they are, 17% is in the cloud. So what they're really looking at is the growth of this is really going to start, the trajectory is going to get greater and greater and greater for looking at cloud-based hosted unified communications solutions. So the one that might be right for you is out there and it's continuing to grow. So let's talk about a little bit primer on Voice PBX and VoIP and what these terms are. Chuck, I'm going to send it over to you to help us because you know this stuff inside and out.
All right, Gary, appreciate the introduction for this. But so a PBX, or a private branch exchange, that is what we've traditionally called a legacy phone system that we've all grown up with over the years. And that was that big box that was down in the telephone closet, and it provided all the interaction between our desk sets, extension dialing. It called the outside world. That system could have been connected through either copper lines, and in today's world, it can be connected using VoIP or SIP trunking, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that is our strong centerpiece there. An internal VoIP system. This is a voice server that is on premise. So maybe you've replaced your PBX in the last several years, and your system actually uses voice over IP, and it communicates using your data network, so the phones connect to it. And then those phone system itself then connects to your telecom providers. It still may use PRI or POTS, plain old telephone lines, could use SIP. And those feature capabilities are still provided by a system that's internal in your building. From there, we move on to the next level of systems, which is our cloud-based voice systems. And really here, what we've done is we've taken that equipment, we've moved it out of your office, and we've now put that into the cloud. We've shifted the responsibility of the management and maintenance of that piece of equipment to us as a vendor versus you as the customer. Same functionalities and all, but all that functionality happens up in the cloud. And there you can have company-wide phone numbers, DID phone numbers for each user. The other key piece about this is you can have remote users and or multi-offices, which we'll touch base by that again later in the presentation. And then lastly, SIP. SIP, which is Session Initiation Protocol. This is nothing more than the language that is used to communicate. SIP phones will, the voice over IP phone will talk to the voice over IP PBX using SIP. And then in the PBX itself will talk to the outside vendor using a SIP trunk. So when you hear SIP, it's just like it's the language of how they communicate. And you have a SIP trunk for outside, and you have SIP endpoints for inside. But the VoIP and SIP go hand in hand. That's how we'll provide you your overall communications capabilities. That is from point to point, from dial tone to ringing on your desk.
Thank you, Chuck. And I think one of the biggest points here, too, is to understand the difference of when somebody says a VoIP system, I need a voice over IP system. There's a lot that goes into that on whether or not your phones are connected to a VoIP system internally and then out to the world, or if your phones are connected via VoIP out to the world. So there's a big difference, and this explains kind of the inner workings of how a phone system works. And now we have to look at that of how it works with a collaboration vendor. So if we were to look at how the collaboration vendors, the Cisco Webex, the Microsoft Teams of the world, how are they providing these voice services, okay? So there's a couple of ways that they can do that. So there are VoIP collaboration partners out there that directly provide the voice capabilities to their customers. So really it is, they own that responsibility to take that collaboration application and provide dial tone. And basically that's what we're talking about, where they directly put point A to point B, and that collaboration app, when you say dial, it actually can dial an outside number. That's one way the collaboration vendors are providing the voice services. And that does set them apart if they're actually the ones doing that. The other way that they can do this is indirectly. And then what they do is they have a collaboration provider integrate with a SIP connectivity. And there's why that's important, where you can bring your own SIP trunk. You can bring your own SIP into a provider. So, Microsoft Teams is one of these examples where you can bring your own SIP into Microsoft Teams to be able to have that be your voice calling. They can also do it direct. But really what the collaboration vendor is, you want to look for one that if you want to have a seamless integration, that you want one that understands and allows you to use the PBX and the voice like you need it to use, okay? So most importantly, you have to understand that the providers really will focus more on the features and capabilities of their core systems. So if they are a core provider of that solution, whether it's voice or they're probably going to be better at it. And some of them, and I will say Cisco, has actually both. So they do that very well as well if you need both. So let's talk about how you choose a voice versus collaboration. So from a voice standpoint, and here's where, talking, and Chuck, I'm going to have you walk us through this. Why would somebody choose a cloud-based voice or hosted PBX over a collaboration solution?
Well, primarily when a client and customer is looking at an existing phone system they have, and they look at the fact that they have either outgrown it, or it's time to upgrade because they're looking for additional features or stuff. So a cloud-based voice solution is a perfect one-to-one replacement for that on-premise system, and now moving that phone system up into the cloud for them so that they no longer have their responsibility of managing that piece of equipment and maintenance and hardware and things like that within their facility. When your functionality is primarily for voice calling, for voice features, you want traditional desk sets, conference phones. You may have mobile apps and but you want that traditional take a call, make a call, transfer calls, auto attendant, interactive voice response, things that we typically think of as being voice related. When cost is a concern, because you can start with your voice solution and you need the dial tone to make and receive calls for your business, and that's your need, and you may be looking later to grow up into the collaboration side, which is one of the things we'll talk about later. But this way you can start with the smaller end, replace the immediate thing, which is that voice communications of your old system. So this is great for all kinds of industries: retail companies, hospitalities, legal, medical, any traditional professional business out there. Host-based cloud solutions are great for multi-location. So you think of that retail operation, or even that smaller mom and pop that's got 2 stores. Now you can have all of them onto one cloud-based voice solution.
Wonderful, thank you. So now, why would we choose a collaboration solution over a cloud voice solution, even though we still need voice? And I'll speak to this, and I'll tell you, when you have a team that you need to collaborate, and you need the sharing capabilities, and you need dial tone calling, but you need it all integrated in one. So if you have a very highly sharing and focused team that are constantly making calls versus video versus chat versus sharing documents, you may take a cloud collaboration solution as your primary solution and then add voice in there for those calls when you need to go external to your organization. When your employees can communicate more often using chat or video conferencing, when this is their first go-to, then phones have become the secondary. So you wouldn't pick up your phone to call the person who's in the office next to you, where you will chat them, or you will get up and walk over them if you're not remote. But those are the things where a cloud collaboration solution may be the answer first. The other thing too is if you have a really large remote workforce and you need the flexibility in how your team communicates, and you want to be able to have phone calls go directly to their app at their desk, even though they may not have a physical phone, some of these cloud collaboration solutions are much better at handling that than taking a phone physically and moving it around. So those are some of the ideas for a collaboration. Another one too is, and again, I know that you can do this with any type of voice over IP solution, but if you have an organization that's set up where every employee has their own phone number, it's always tied to them, and basically their customers and their clients and everybody calls that number, and you don't have the traditional one company phone number that everybody calls and then gets transferred out, then this may be the best use of a collaboration system, because everybody will have their own phone number and people will call it directly. So that might be a choice for you. Okay, so we're going to focus now on Ring Authority as a voice solution. So Chuck, take us through how you work this solution for your customers.
Well, one of the things I want to point out when you're looking at a voice over IP VoIP solution from one of these cloud-based providers like Ring Authority or Jive or one of the others, you have to understand there's really three components to it. There's the SIP trunking, there's the PBX itself, and what we call the user endpoints. So we'll kind of give you a little background on each one of those. So with the RA SIP trunks, this is your communications from the PSTN or the public switch telephone network that we're all grew up with, and allowing the connectivity back in your PBX. What's the advantage of SIP trunking over traditional copper lines, as we call them? You get unlimited call paths. That means there's no limitation on the number of simultaneous calls. A true SIP provider will then provide to you no cap on how many calls you can have. You can have one DID or main telephone number, multiple if desired, including our toll-frees. You can have points of presence in over 11,000 locations in the United States alone. So let's say you've got business that you do in 5 metropolitan cities. You can have a local phone number for each of those, and they will all ring back to your main phone system. And that customer doesn't know whether it's getting answered in Peoria or Sarasota, Florida. So that's an advantage to using some of the voice solutions that are out there. And this is delivered to you over your internet connection. So the strength of your internet connection is the strength of what the voice quality is like. Very important part as you look at any VoIP system. So our next component is the PBX itself. This is a full featured PBX. As we talked about it, an IVR, interactive voice response unit, automated attendant, voicemail to email, conference bridgings with multiple rooms. You have multiple locations, as we've discussed earlier. You have E911 support so that you can keep legally up to date as far as someone dials 911, that they will respond to the correct location. That's all handled in that cloud PBX, even if you have personnel dispersed around. The last component is the user endpoints. It could be your desktop phone. It might be a conference phone. It might be a what we call a soft phone on your PC. It could be a mobile app that's out there that's being done on your mobile devices, be it iPad, iPhone, any of the Android phones or anything else. So together, those three components come together to create the overall voice over IP solution. And the key thing that you need to understand is that this is end to end again. So that from dial tone to the desk set, everything is being provided to you by one provider. Where in the legacy days, you had a local phone company who managed your equipment. You had a local provider who brought dial tone to your business. And then you might even have another vendor that provided handsets for you, depending on what type of PBX you had. So this all gets brought together, eases your overall management, and more cost effective also.
Wonderful, thank you. So now we're going to review a collaboration calling solution from their perspective. And I picked the Cisco Webex, typically because people know of Webex as what you're joined right now. You think of it as the events of meetings, of web conferencing. And they have their teams, and the teams is a collaboration, sharing video back and forth, chats and things of that nature. Well, Cisco's been in the calling business from day one, and they've been in the voice over IP calling system since day one, basically. And so when they added the Webex calling, which is the cloud-based PBX, think of it as like they took their integrated internal unified communications and brought it up and put it and joined it with Webex and said, okay, they are completely integrated. And I will say, this is what we use at IT Resource. We have Cisco Webex door-to-door calling all the way through meetings. And I'll tell you, it is very, very integrated. When you look at what it is and what we really like about this is it integrates the collaboration with teams and meetings, and a phone call is a video call, is a chat call all at the same time. It supports all of the desk phones, conference room phones, mobile devices, video conferencing equipment, so the actual video cameras. All of these just end up being an endpoint. So it doesn't matter if you use the Webex Teams app and answer a phone call. And at the same time, just to give you an example, if my phone rings, everything rings. So my computer rings, my phone rings, my Webex Teams rings, everything rings at once. And this is the way that they integrate it, okay? The way that they price it is per user per month. plus the phone numbers per month. We're going to go over to pricing in a couple of minutes here. And then you get discounts for shared devices like for conference room phones. The other thing too is what they do is they integrate with the Active Directory, Office 365, Google Calendar, so it's all one solution. So you can take a look at how a collaboration solution now brings calling into what they already have integrated with. You know, one of the things too is they have the contact center and the hosted contact center. So if you are a traditional Cisco, if you're a bank, for example, and you have a full call center and you need to replicate that and use the same features in the cloud, you can do that with the Cisco Webex solutions. And you can actually hybrid if you have an existing Cisco solution, not that you have to, but you could hybrid them together and offer both between the two. So their approach of it is to provide what they had on premise in the cloud with the calling features, the PBX, the auto attendance, the E911, things of that, and then integrate with third parties for other things like emergency broadcast and SIP. So that's how Cisco approached the calling solution, okay? So now let's talk a little bit about pricing, because this is really where it comes down to. How are these solutions priced? And you know, Chuck and I kind of, you know, chuckle about this a little bit, is they all end up being about the same. But here they're mostly priced per user per month, okay? So when you're thinking about it, you need to find out what's in it per user per month. So if you have an organization that is has a whole bunch of phones, basically, but few users, that's great for you, okay? So user per month pricing. If you have an organization that has many employees and users, but relatively few phones, that's could be not the best pricing model. But it usually gets down to where each user, each month, and you basically can have as many devices as you want connected, and it doesn't really matter what device you use. They typically assign a direct inward dialing phone number or DID phone number to each user, and they usually bundle the call minutes in. And depending on how many call minutes you have is how they price it out. Usually, each time you want an additional phone number or a DID number for a particular user, you will get charged an additional charge for that and the call minutes. And most, if not all, the plans, if you need a toll-free number, 800 number, or additional DID numbers, they're typically in addition to any of the monthly charges for both the numbers and the minutes used. So it really boils down to, as most of the cloud-based solutions are going to, they're going to per user, per month pricing, okay? There are a few vendors that will charge reduced rates for devices. I know Cisco is one of them, where you just want to add a conference room phone. That's not going to be as expensive as a full user, okay? So let's compare some pricing. Now, I have to asterisk this because these are list prices for a single user. Obviously, there's discounts when you get into more users. But if you look at it, and Chuck, kind of speak to how your pricing goes with Ring Authority.
Well, what we've done, we recognized a long time ago that many times a company may have, as you mentioned earlier, extraneous phones. They've got a conference room phone, they've got a kitchen phone, a filing room phone, things like that. So we offer two plans. One's the unlimited, which is per user. So at $28 a month at the beginning level, unlimited number of calls, minutes for each of those users. But why would you want to spend $28 for a conference room phone that gets used once a week? So we have our alternative there, which is used by quite a few customers per user. So you're paying a $9.95 month usage fee. That basically is providing you the service of the PBX and all the functionality that goes with it. And then you just strictly pay for the usage of your number of SIP minutes. And in the Ring Authority world, there is no such thing as having to buy minimum blocks of numbers or anything like overage or something like that. You pay strictly for the usage you have. Now, that's advantageous for people like we're in Florida. We're very seasonal. Business goes up during season, goes down off season. Their phone bills ride with that. And again, remember we mentioned that there's unlimited number of call paths at the same time. So there's no limitation to how many calls they can make. They're literally having their phone bill adjusted by the actual amount of usage for them. So each company is different. We allow them to take and make the choice. We monitor it. We advise them if there's something they need to do as far as if they make the wrong choice. inadvertently, we allow them the opportunity to change from one to the other. But we feel that gives them the best ability to fit their phone system needs to their calling plans and what they do.
Wonderful. So how Cisco Webex calling does it is what they do is they do a per user per month, and then you basically are buying a phone line, a calling plan on top of that. It ends up being about $28, $29, a month between those two. But what that does allow you to do is basically have a number for every single person. So their Webex Teams app, for example, now has full calling capabilities and tons of minutes to be able to use for that. So that's how they accomplish that. Jive, GoToConnect, same thing. It's per user per month. And you can have multiple devices for that. But basically, you get everything. You get the minutes. You get in there. But, with Jive, and we do like Jive as well, we just didn't have enough time to put, focus on all of these. But, you have minutes, you have a phone number, and you have devices for users. And again, full PBX features. All of these have full PBX features, except for, I'm going to say, Microsoft Teams. We would love to do, and probably are going to do, a specific Microsoft Teams calling and how to do that. But we're going to do a bonus, if you can stick around for a few more minutes, do a bonus on how to add true PBX to Microsoft Teams. The way Microsoft Teams does, and of course, Microsoft Teams is available with almost every Office 365, Microsoft 365 plan. They add a per user per month fee of $8 just to be able to have the calling features. And then you have to do a dial plan, or you have to bring your own SIP into it. In this case, their domestic dial plan starts at about $12 per month per user. So you're in at about $20 a month just to have dial call through Microsoft. It doesn't have all the PBX features, but it now allows a Microsoft Teams app to place an outbound call to a third party using your standard PSTN. So that's how the pricing all works out here. Now we're going to do a quick bonus on how you can add the cloud PBX, true PBX features to Microsoft Teams. Now, obviously, Microsoft Teams, they have their meetings and calling. They call it calling. A lot of it's internal until you add the voice capabilities. They have the chat and collaboration, and they have apps and workflow. So we kind of all know Teams is really grown up, and it is not the Skype or Skype for Business that we used to have before. So Chuck, tell me how you add voice to Microsoft Teams using Ring Authority.
Well, this is the thing we're really excited about, Gary, with Microsoft opening up, and there's really two ways you can do that. Microsoft, as Gary mentioned, has the Microsoft direct dial plans. So you can go to Microsoft and buy your blocks of minutes, and you get basic telephony features. You can make and take a call, you can put it on hold, and that's about it. There's basic functionality. They also created something what they call direct routing, and Ring Authority is taking advantage of that direct routing capability using our SIP trunking. And so now we allow you to take the SIP trunks that you utilize from us and tie it in your Teams. And we'll tell you about a couple ways that we handle that and do it. So the first way is what we call Ring Authority trunk direct routing. This is a situation of where, as Gary mentioned earlier, you've got that one-to-one association. You've got a Teams user who has their own SIP trunk that then connects them to the outside world. They are on standalone. They have their own phone number. If you want to reach them, you call the full 10-digit phone number, and you will ring their Teams app, and it'll ring right into them, and they can answer it. They can make calls. And that's just what basically you get when you go to the Microsoft dial plan. The next slide is what we feel is going to be the help to people to make that jump into the next level. So we talked about starting with a voice solution and then growing it up and using collaboration. Well, if you're already using Microsoft Office 365 and you add the Teams component that Gary mentioned a while ago, you may see the slide from earlier. And what we've basically done is we've now integrated the Microsoft Teams user as a full endpoint into the Ring Authority voice solution. So now you have one pane of glass, one screen that you're doing all your collaboration work for, and you have the call capability to not only call internally, now you can make and take calls externally also out to the public network. The really special piece about this is all the features and functions of your PBX are available to you to use. So you no longer have a limited phone system as with the Microsoft dial plan. You've got a full featured set, and you no longer have to worry about buying a phone or having another piece of software on your computer to do your dialing along with your collaboration. It is all wrapped up into Microsoft Teams, and this is something that Ring Authority has, and one of the early adopters into it. And this is what Gary was talking about with that tight integration of making Microsoft tie into the Ring Authority, and it is seamless to the user. They have no clue, nor do they should care how that call is being directed. They just know it does direct, and somebody calls them, they can transfer a call internally and it gets to that next user. So this is where we are really excited about. Teams now gives us an option to have similar functionality to what Webex has had for years, and Webex does a great job at it. And now we have some alternatives for those other customers also.
Yeah, especially for the Microsoft, the heavy Microsoft users. Thank you, Chuck. All right, so key points. Try to wrap this up for you folks so you can get on to your day. But compare the features of both the voice and collaboration to find the right fit for your business. So understand, are you really needing the voice features to be top of line, or are the collaboration features driving your decisions? Estimate the expected cost based on number of users. So really, you really do need to start with number of users. How many devices you have, how many phone numbers you're going to need. If you are heavily into DID phone numbers and you need one-to-one and you have 150 employees, that is going to be a much larger per month cost than if you need 15 or 10 or even 3 phone numbers. And obviously your expected usage minutes, because every plan comes with a set number of minutes. It may be 15,000 minutes, it may be 8,000 minutes, but you do need to know which those are so that you don't have any surprise overages. Take advantage of the provider integrations, whether it's Cisco Webex with their IntelliPeer SIP, or if it's Microsoft Teams and Ring Authority with the PBX integrations. Take advantage of the integrations to get the best of both worlds. If any one single solution, whether it's Ring Authority, Jive, Cisco, Microsoft Teams, if any of them actually work for your business, fantastic, great. But if not, get those integrations going. And finally, get a solution that is going to be flexible and expand with your business and change. Obviously, we've had a big remote workforce push over the last several months. And the phone systems and the businesses that have adopted cloud-based phone systems and solutions and collaboration are doing very well working remotely. So kind of think of what might come your way. Finally, I want to thank you for joining us on the webinar, and remember to fill out the survey so that you can be entered to win the $50 Amazon gift card drawing. We're going to be sending this presentation and a link to the webinar recording to everyone who attended today. And also, if you would like a comparison data sheet of the features and capabilities of each of these solutions here and more, mention that in the survey and we'll send a copy to you. So thank you again, Chuck, for joining us. Appreciate your appearance on our webinar today.
Thank you, Gary, for having me and the opportunity to share some information.
Wonderful. And again, thank you to everyone, and have a great day.